Hello and welcome back to Oh No, Not Another Podcast. As you know, I'm Mr. Kaameel. Join with me as co-host Mr. Snare. How are you doing today, sir?
Hello, I'm pretty good. I'm burning hot though. I'm sweating like a pig, but I'm all good.
I did. The audience definitely needed to hear that. You wanna introduce our superstar guest for us tonight?
The superstar guest, who probably needs many introductions, but there's not enough time. So just randomly tickle Miss Sam Wright. Hello, how are you?
Hello, that was the best introduction. I much preferred that to any sort of hype because I'll just disappoint people.
Oh, disappointing people. Something I can relate to. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, disappointment is part and parcel of being in the public space, right? You know, if you don't disappoint people, how are you ever gonna get hype?
Exactly. And then when you finally don't disappoint them, then they feel like they got much more from you when in actual fact they didn't.
It's so true.
Exactly.
Every time Snare does a shit Dota cast and I cast the game, then I'm like, all right, that's good. I just been boosted here by my fellow co-caster.
Yeah, man. Basically, what's required is that we have to support each other by sometimes taking the dive. You know, tactical feed for the team.
Ah, what a gentleman.
Every time I do something cringy now, I'm going to say that that's what I'm doing. I'm taking one for the team. I'm doing the cringe move so that other people can be uplifted.
You just wanted to make Gmax look good, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Nah, man, sometimes G-Max is a bit more cringy than me. That RGB love affair is a problem for me.
Oh my god, the worst is when he used to do, you know, those Twitter videos while driving. I was like, focus on the road, man.
Nah, man, I love G-Max's his driving videos. Also, I thought it was quite funny that I think he did them for a week and then suddenly everyone started doing them. Then
Yeah,
he
yeah.
stopped. He's a
What a trendsetter.
trailblazer.
You know,
Oh,
there was
man.
a 7% spike in road fatalities this last week. I wonder if that's his fault.
Trailblazer, that's what we said.
Alright, let's get into this, right? So last week I asked Mr. Alex to explain who the hell he was because, you know, nobody really knows the behind the scenes guy, Mr. Alex. Now you tackle, you got a different sort of vibe. You like in the public eye all the time, right? But the question is, I mean, you're like one of the few people that are like full-time here in SA Esports, right? How did you get to that sort of stage where you are the tech girl?
So I don't know if I'd say I'm full-time esports. I mean, I suppose I would, but basically I studied journalism and I actually worked at YFM. I was their deputy news editor for 2 years, and I had these big dreams of being a war reporter. And then I think I went to like my first public strike and just was absolutely terrified and realized that I preferred like unicorns and rainbows. So canned that idea, was doing a lot of sort of tech reporting and focusing on the science and technology stories because I was a bit of a nerd. Got headhunted by an engineering firm, so went to go work there in corporate because the money was really good. And while I was there, I just got bored. So I started freelance writing for a bunch of tech publications and then got drunk one night and thought it would be funny to start Tech Girl. uh, which is I mean, that's the short story. But actually what happened was is a lot of my mates kept asking me like for phone advice, and I spoke to a lot of women in the technology space who were looking for a platform that was entertaining and fun and didn't take itself too seriously, but wasn't cosmopolitan, if you like. So I started a tech blog, which was what Tech Girl was. And then my brother played Dota. I actually think he played for Damage Control for a while. He played with Stickerlish, he was quite prominent in the Dota scene. And then because of that, I was sort of hanging around a little bit, but found CSGO to be more my jam. And I just got this sort of, I don't know, like a bug bit me where I was getting really pissed off because no one was really covering South African esports. And because I'd grown up with most of those guys, I mean, goals, everyone knows, like that kid used to come and land in my house every weekend. So I just felt really bad that like none of the mainstream media was giving these guys any attention. So I made a commitment about 2 years ago where I said I was going to do esports news and coverage and I wanted everyone else to. And then I stuck to that and just kept doing esports stuff. And that's why I'm here now.
That was a lot of content in a very short amount of time, you know. Minister Lazada wouldn't be proud of that. You know, he could have answered that question in about 45 minutes.
I like to keep it short. I just smash it all in there and then I'm done. I also don't really like talking about myself, so it's a little bit weird.
Oh, is that why all the blogs are about products and stuff? I thought, you know, you maybe get paid to do this and that. It's just avoiding yourself. That's odd, you know. That's usually people's favorite topic.
I don't talk about myself, but when I give my opinion on something, I find that it just causes a lot of trouble. So I do it maybe once in a while just to remind people that I'm still around, and then I go back to just chatting about products and video games.
You know, actually, speaking of what you're mentioning about women wanting a space that doesn't take itself too seriously, um, it can't be like one of the things that I've always noticed is when it comes to the requirements of what men and women should be doing in the technology and esports space, is that men are generally allowed to mess around and do whatever, just make lulz. Whereas most women, it's either you're super serious, this is what you do all day, every day, you can't take it as a joke. It's either that or you're just doing the quote unquote, what do they call them? Like girlfriend reviews or shit like that, which makes no sense either. So, what have you found having been at the game for a couple of years? Has any attitudes changed over time, in general and specifically towards you?
So this is a difficult one because I didn't do gaming content in the beginning. Not because I didn't like video games, not because I didn't play video games, but because one, I'm not very good. Like I enjoy them, but I mean anyone who's watched one of my YouTube videos can see that I lack hand-eye coordination, which I know and I'm okay with. I still have fun, and I think that 90% of people who play games are not very good at them. Like no big deal, but I struggled in the beginning because I feel exactly like you said, there's like this very black and white. On one side, you're either super serious, the best at what you do, mind-blowingly amazing, or on the other side, you're that gamer girl, boobs out for the camera, really cool selfies. And I'm not that girl, but I'm also not the super serious girl. I'm a little bit of a clown. I fall in the middle, and I'm a little bit of a tomboy, and I don't think I do the sexy gamer girl thing. And I was terrified because I was like, I don't know if people are like, no one's gonna get it, and a lot of people didn't in the beginning. They were like, what is this? Because this is not normal. But I definitely think I don't think there's been a change. I just think that there's more females coming into the space to the point that it actually doesn't matter anymore. I say that, I mean it does. I've heard brands specifically ask for a gamer girl, or specifically say, well, I want the hardcore gamer that's actually good. Like they're not interested in the middle ground, which was obviously where I sit. But for the most part, I don't think it's changed. I think it'll always be there, which is weird because there's lots of dudes like me who just sort of play in that middle space and can act the fool and exactly like you said, mess around. So it's strange that it can't be like that for women, but I also think it can. I think if you just decide you want it to be that way, which is what I did, you can make it happen. But sometimes I wonder if maybe my growth in my career is limited because I don't jump on either side there.
I mean,
That
that's
is
interesting. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go, Mr. Steer. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, I think we were about to just say the same thing, that's something it's an interesting thing that you have to consider, right? Because this is not a concern that most guys who are trying to get involved in the esports scene really have to have in saying that, okay, in order to remain true to myself, I might necessarily take a cut in terms of how I want to advance in the industry. Like you're saying, you have to like having to choose one or the other might net you greater visibility, greater profit, more screen time as it were, but that's not who you are. So now you have to juggle that, like juggle who you are versus what you actually want to do and how people are going to receive it. And it's one of these things that like as guys we don't have to think about. It's just like whatever. You can just get into the game, do it. Basically, no matter what I do, I'll be taken seriously, which is weird, given how much. Also, I think
Steer, nobody takes you seriously. Come on, man.
well, yeah, not anymore. Like, now it's gone too far. Like, yeah, I fucked it up. But like, initially, it's like, yeah, maybe he can be taken seriously a little bit. Also, what I think is really strange is people don't necessarily give you enough props for the amount of work you put in. Because it's like, I don't know, like, what do you think, Kaameel? Because she's one of the people that tends to put out the most amount of content, like, consistently all the time. Just kind of annoying for the rest of us. Because now we have to also get good.
100%. Like, I've actually told Sam this in the past. That she's actually one of the people I truly do look up to in South African gaming, esports, like, blogs, YouTube, whatever you want to call it. Just one of the actually people I lift up just because the amount of sheer, like, grind work that Sam does. But, it's just really impressive. There's nobody else I know in South African content creation, let's call it, in the field that we are in, that works as hard as Sam. Just full stop.
Yep. Agreed.
This is great. Is this just like a boost my ego night? Like, I'm gonna do this once a week. Can I come on here once a week and just tell you guys? It'll be good for me. Nah, I'm kidding. I also think that if anyone ever wants to just up their content game, go work in a newsroom for a day, and you'll be able to do anything. Especially if you had the editor that I had. He was really mean, so that helped.
On that topic though, I wanted to ask you, because you do so much content creation, blogs, YouTube videos, all that kind of jazz. What is a piece of advice you'd have to like an aspiring, let's say, YouTuber or blogger or something like that? What is that one piece of advice you wish you had when you were like, let's say, 18 or something?
Stop making excuses. I think I've seen this a lot, and I know I was guilty of it as well. Like, I worked full time. Funny enough, I only went full time content creation in February this year. So the whole of last year, I had a full-time job at an ad agency. I was flying overseas once a month for work, and I was actually putting out more content then than what I'm putting out now. And purely because I just got myself into a mindset where I went, no excuses, this is what you have to do. And I sacrificed. I didn't go out and have really big parties. I didn't stay up late playing games. I stayed up working. My Sundays were work. And I think for anyone who's starting out in this industry who wants to create content or wants to be in esports, you have to just stop making excuses. Like, just do it. If you're not doing it and you can make excuses, then you probably don't want it bad enough. But I do think that that's always been my thing, is just go and do it. Because like, you don't have to be the best. I've always said this, it doesn't have to be the best. It just has to go up. Because you know that there's a bunch of people who aren't going to be doing that content. So just get it up. Even if it's not the best, if you're consistently putting it out, there's a group of people that appreciate the fact that they know that they can get something from you once a week or once a day or whatever else.
On that point, about, it doesn't necessarily have, like you mentioned, it doesn't have to be the best thing that you do, but you have to be doing something. Of all the content that you produce, all the things that you do, as Kaameel mentioned, you blog, you stream, you write articles. What if you were to take it, like, if you were to ask, choose one thing to keep, no matter what? Because myself and Kaameel are having a conversation with Alex. I think it was with Alex, we were saying that the thing about this industry is that you have to be able to do things that you would do for free. Otherwise, you'll lose the passion extremely quickly. You'll get jaded overnight, basically. So what keeps you going, basically? What part of the suites of tech girl is it that inspires you and motivates you the most?
I just love, sounds so cheesy. I love the people that engage with Tickle. I also love that we're talking about Tickle in the third person. I love the people that I get to speak to every day. And the people, whether it be right in the beginning when I had 0 followers and I maybe had 2 people, one of them was my mom, like commenting on my stuff, and now there's a much audience. But there's something really special about those people, the people that I get to chat to every day on Twitter, the people that comment on my YouTube videos. I just had like the best conversation today with a young girl who was commenting on one of my videos, and it was just like really cool to speak to her. And that's really what it is for me, is those people that are just as passionate about gaming, just as passionate about esports, passionate about tech, and they're me. Like, it's like having a friend who has all your interests on the internet, and you never actually have to meet and you can connect. Sounds really cheesy, but that's honestly the only reason I do it, because it means more to me when I get a comment on that YouTube video than like any paycheck, believe it or not.
I can believe.
That's pretty cool. And I just do it, prove that one guy flaming on the stream wrong. Now, jokes aside though, on your point earlier, that just do it sort of mindset is like, something I can kind of attest to in like esports casting in the last 6 months. There's nobody telling me to cast, nobody doing anything. I just saw there's games to cast. I was like, this might be a good idea. And I literally just casted. I think in the month of April, I probably casted, like 40 games or so? It was actually just crazy, like how much. I don't think it's an insane amount of grind work, but it was more than anybody else was doing at that point. So I was like, I'm doing it,
Kaameel, you know what's so funny? Do you remember how we met?
At the Masters Cup. I remember.
I was looking
let me
to
tell
interview.
the story.
Okay,
Let me tell
you
the
tell
story.
the story.
Okay, so at the Masters Cup, now before that Masters Cup, I think it was the Mega 8 qualifiers or something like the week before, and I was casting that, and I had like the most views on stream, and I was getting comments and like people writing like fan mail and stuff to my Facebook page and stuff. So like my ego was like through the roof, right? Although now I look back and I'm like, hey, how could this guy cast so badly? But at that point, I was digging it. So Sam comes to the Masters Cup and she's like there, all kitted out, looking like the tech girl. Then she comes there, she's asking APG players, yo, you guys want to do an interview with me? This, that. And then I'm like, yo. I'm like the up and coming caster in SA. Don't you want to interview me? And she's like, and then she just moved on. You know, that sly go away.
No, that's not how it went.
Okay.
Man.
So that's
okay. Let's hear your story of
the big
your
K
version of
account.
this event.
What do you have to say, Sam?
So I was actually there. I write for Red Bull and contribute to the esports section. So I had been commissioned because I said to them, "This is what I'm going to do," and we planned the stuff beforehand. And I'd organized to do some interviews, not technical interviews, super serious interviews with players, specifically around VS, and went through there looking for players, which is always a little bit of a struggle because 9 times out of 10 when they see me coming, they think we're going to do something silly, so they don't want to be on camera. And I did walk up to the APG guys and I was just like, hey guys, I need to do an interview. Does anyone want to do an interview with me? And Kaameel did not even miss a beat. And it's interesting because I've never forgot because he just looks at me and he was like, I'm probably going to, I still remember you said, I'm an up and coming caster, but I'll probably be one of the best Dota 2 casters soon. Do you want to interview me? And I looked at this guy and I was like, and the thing is, I feel like I'm quite a good judge of character because I was like, this is either the cockiest ass, but I could see straight away that it wasn't. Like, it was really just like, he was self-confident enough that he was like, I'm going to take this risk because I need to be on that camera. And I was like, I don't know why, but I actually quite like this guy. Like, I probably shouldn't. That's probably, like, so I was very cocky. But, like, the truth is since then, because after that, like, I did sort of pay a bit of attention. And I did interview you, I think, as well.
Yeah, at the energy event.
Yes, at the energy one, then I did an interview. But straight after that, I was like, what was memorable for me, though, is because I went home and I straight away went on social media and I was like, who was this guy? Started following all your stuff. And then exactly like you said, like, you grind. Like, I see you every week. And I was like, look, this guy actually is, because lots of people come and tell me that they're casters and then I never see them again.
Yeah.
And you were one of the few that, like, every week I saw stuff and I was like, flip, he may just be what he says he's going to be very soon. Like, I should probably pay attention.
What do you think? Where's he at now in getting
yeah,
to
he's
that
still
level?
a cocky ass. I'm joking.
Can't argue with that.
I find, like, it's interesting because, like, Dota's not, like, I mean, we all know Dota's not my game, but I find Kaameel's casting really entertaining. I mean, both of you guys I find rather entertaining, but I also like that you've pulled in, like this podcast and the player interviews, and I've seen the videos. I think that that's really important because I think we've lacked that locally for a long time. Like,
Yeah.
any sort of, like, content around it. If you go look at, and I hate comparing to international because I think it's so different, but, like, they fly YouTubers in, like gaming YouTubers, to do interviews and stuff. They've always had someone in the back doing interviews, and, like, they've always done the behind the scenes stuff. So I think it's important that we have that, and I'm glad that Kaameel found a place in Dota because we didn't really have someone doing that, you know, for a long time, and we need it because it's the only way people will get to know what's going on, not just watching the games. They also want to know these people that are playing.
Yeah, you want to know them in a real sense. Because, like, we can't deny the fact that the way that these industries grow is by somewhat, well, it might suck for us, but somewhat creating a celebrity culture. So players need to become celebrities as well as the talent, the voices behind it. So people need to be exposed. And like you say, if no one's doing the auxiliary content, not just directly related to the game itself, so no one's writing opinion pieces, no one's interviewing the players, no one's just creating their own content about what they think the landscape of the esports going to look like. If no one's doing that, then it doesn't really grow. Like, the players by themselves they're not in this alone. The rest of us have to also come up. But I wanted to ask you something, actually, based on what you said earlier about referring to tech girl in the third person. Do you ever feel that way, as if tech girl is something that's separate from you as Sam, right?
Yes and no. So yes, because I feel like the blog, I mean, I started that blog 3 years ago now, and it hasn't really, it's still what it is, what it was then. It hasn't really changed, but that was purely just because the audience that grew around it, that was what they wanted, but I changed, and I couldn't find a way to do that on the blog. So that was why I started YouTube, which I think is a little bit more reflective of my personality. Funny enough, though, when I sit on when I'm on an esports event and I'm behind a camera interviewing a player, being cheeky, that's actually more who I am. So it's difficult for me to say I am technical. I think there's a lot about me that people don't know or don't see. So it is a little bit of a persona now more than anything else, which is weird. But that also sounds like really up my own arse. Like, no, I mean, I am technical. It's just a part of my personality. Sometimes I don't like her, so then I refer to her in the third person.
No, I don't mean to say this in a bad way, but it's not in a bad way at all. It's just, I don't know why I say that before I say stuff, because then it makes it seem like a bad way. It's bad.
I'm
habit.
about to get flamed, eh? Okay, I'm ready.
No, but
Let's go.
The trademark.
You can
Kaameel
see
flame. Here
the
we go.
level of politically correctness that is around Tekko, that it has to be a persona, you know?
You're actually right. No, do you know what? I edited a video yesterday and I had to take out, there's a particular word that I say all the time. It's in my vocabulary. It's very offensive. And I was playing a game and I filmed myself and I realized I said it and I had to go delete it, which is interesting because if you met me in real life, you would know that that word leaves my mouth every
all the time.
few minutes. Yeah, but if you put this on the internet, you're just going to get flamed, so you have to take it down. So maybe you're right. I don't know. Maybe maybe I should be president. Maybe I'm just really good at being PC.
Let's actually talk about that, guys.
I mean, you'd be president about 6 years ago. As you see, Trump now is like set a new standard for presidency.
Yeah, I don't think you're a dick enough to be president now.
Yeah, come on, get your shit together, Sam.
Yeah, now PC will get me. I won't win that race.
No, but
I have to be non-PC.
a
Maybe
good
one day I'll
example
have
of
a
your
breakdown and then just completely lose it like he did on the internet. Sometimes I wish I did just to see what happened.
I think it'd be super popular if you had to go like ape shit or something. If you had to go Aloe Alvain for like a while, I think it'd just be crazy.
I don't know. I don't know. Also, I don't know if I can take it as well as I can give it. So, I mean, because there would be a lot of hate coming back my way.
Yeah.
I'd totally read a blog with you just flaming all us SA people. It'd be great.
I mean,
No.
I'd subscribe to that. Yeah, it would be like
Listen,
sort of be
everyone
like
would
watching
read
Survivor.
it.
Yeah.
No, but we'd all read it because when it comes to esports, if there's gossip, like someone will send a WhatsApp to someone else to tell them to go look at it. Like I love it when there's drama on Twitter because I know that the community is really small and we need to grow that base. But if one person drops something controversial, everyone knows about it within 5 minutes and they haven't even opened Twitter. It's just like in all the WhatsApp groups and pigeons and smoke signals, and we all know what's going on.
How about this? Like, have a lottery where you pick names out of a ball and you just find different ways to flame everyone. So that way it'll be like an event. It'll be like, who's getting the shit into the stick today?
Once a week, we just draw a name. But then like I'll struggle here because there's some players that I actually just think are too nice, and I wouldn't want to be mean to them, even if they have bad games. I feel bad.
I mean, you could only just stack the deck and put Kameel's name inside the lottery.
We'll do Kaameel every week. Let's go.
You know, last week you misspoke here. You know, this guy's such a douchebag. I could get down that, you know, as long as my name is mentioned, I'm happy. I'm just gonna be honest about that. Whether it's good, whether it's bad.
Just as long as they mention my name. It's true though. Like what someone once said to me, you shouldn't be upset that people are talking shit about you. You should be upset when people stop talking about you completely.
To quote my hero Kobe Bryant, "You've only made it once you got haters, man. You've only made it once you have haters."
There you go.
There's Kobe in every rap song ever, so basically we should all become rappers in esports.
I'd be an amazing rapper. I mean, I can't rap, but I'm pretty sure I'd be an amazing rapper.
What would be your rap name? Here you go.
Tech
10
Nine
seconds.
Girl. And Girl. It's always been Tech Nine Girl.
Oh my god, Tech 9.
Oh
okay.
man.
Alright, I can.
Tech 9 Girl.
Tech 9 Girl. That's actually, I hate how that actually makes a lot of sense. It's like, yeah, that would actually work.
Shout out to my boy Tiny, because that was his nickname. I stole it because it's so good.
See, we can make fun of G-Max on the podcast, but not Tiny, because you know he could just beat me up.
Yeah, Tiny would beat you up. He'd beat us all up. Oh, he wouldn't beat me up, like, because he's a gentleman, but he'd beat you guys up.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, he mustn't assume my gender before trying to whoop my ass. You know?
True.
That's something I need to save me.
What an politically correct piece of shit.
So that's actually something I want to talk to both of you about, right? And I actually have mixed feelings about this. So how much profanity and how much political incorrectness, or how much true person or the truth of ourselves should come through in the work we do? So For instance, like Kaameel was saying now, seeing your blog as tech girl versus who you might be in, like you're saying, there's words you'll say in person or that you'll never feel comfortable saying on stream or on camera. Is that actually a good thing for the overall benefit of the scene? I mean, clearly that's how things are, and that's how things always have been in terms of broadcast media. Sanitizing the cast, sanitizing the broadcast, sanitizing what we say to each other. But is that actually beneficial, given that? I think people do better when they get to be themselves. You don't have to necessarily guard the exact word nature of what you're going to say when you can be clear in your communication. Even if it's somewhat controversial, might rub someone the wrong way. When you feel like you're within that safe space, I think it tends to produce better content out of people. But I'd be interested in what do you guys think about this?
I've never not been myself. When I've interviewed a player and I've said something, or I've sat on when I was sort of hosting an analyst desk and I said a few controversial things and asked controversial questions, it's never stopped me from being controversial or saying something that I know, because a lot of the time I knew, specifically when I was hosting the Samsung Galaxy CSGO Championship, when I sat on that analytics desk, I knew when I said certain things, people were going to be upset because some of the stuff was a bit controversial. But I knew I had the facts to back it up. But also, it didn't stop me from being controversial. I think, though, swearing like a trooper, which is what in real life, if you meet me, I have a terrible potty mouth. That's just a respect thing, because I think that I don't, it's a respect thing. Like, that's not changing who I am. It's just, no one wants to hear someone just swear on stream, especially my mom. She gets really upset. And then I think so. It's not so much toning it down. I also just think it's like knowing when you have a soapbox. Like, I don't think anyone, I'm gonna be in trouble for saying this now.
Go for it.
Anyone in South African esports, any of us is important, to be honest, yet. Let's say yet, because maybe someone blows up. But like, I just don't think that any of us are important enough yet to jump on a soapbox and sort of throw our dick around, for want of a better term. So I like, that's, I couldn't figure out another way to say it. But like, I just don't think that, it's all like, I hear this, this went around for a long time. I know I'm chatting to Dota guys, but I'm sure you guys know Thorin. And there was always who's South Africa's next Thorin? Well, none of us, because Thorin spent years doing what he does, and he's earned the respect of the players, of the fans, of the community, and he's proven himself that he can stand up and be an arsehole, and that's okay. But I don't think anyone in South African esports is there yet where, I mean, it's one thing to be controversial, but I do think that sometimes you also have to be respectful of the youth of the scene. Am I making any sense?
Okay, let me quote my man Evo from Sun 5. He says, esports is still in its embryonic stages. We inside esports, we look a lot bigger than we actually are. I mean, here's a good humbling experience that happened at that ASUS event that we all went to a couple of weeks ago, or myself and Deco went to. Chidawi, the White Driver Gaming players were there, and Chidawi, the offlane player and captain, was there, and there was this girl, the receptionist, and he's like, "Can I take a photo with you?" Then I'm like, "Hey, this guy is like the best Dota player," and they say, "Why don't you ask to take a photo with him?" And she's like, hello, I have like 13,000 Instagram followers, definitely more popular than him. And I just burst out laughing, because that's just the reality of our scene so far.
Also, how sad is it that you base your popularity on how many Instagram followers you have?
Right. I was gonna tune her about it, but I'm like, time and place.
People get money out of Instagram followers, so.
No, I mean, I hear you, but still, I just think that you should aim higher on your life goals there.
No, you should. You should be the best at something, and not just people like how I look on Instagram. But on what you were saying now, Sam, about no one's earned the right to genuinely be a jackass, though. I think, like, should anybody ever get big enough where we give you a blanket allowance to be a jackass? Because I definitely get what you're saying in terms of, you can be controversial, you can be your complete and authentic self at all times, but I don't think that, like, anybody should ever get big enough where if they behave like a jackass, because that's one of the things that I've always thought about Thorin. I remember after I did the one VS Gaming CSGO event, obviously I was terrible at it because I'm bad at the game. But I've been learning and grinding, and one of Congo Kyle told me, check out some of these people. And one of the people on that list was Thorin. And obviously Thorin knows what he's talking about when he talks about the game. But at the same time, sometimes when he does dip into being the asshole jackass, you ask yourself, was this really necessary? Like, I get that you are who you are, and that's okay, but like you were saying, the whole thing about respect, like respecting your audience, respecting the people that you're engaging with, and you don't necessarily have to behave in a certain way. And can you ever actually get big enough where we should, or rather, should you ever get big enough where the rest of us excuse your behavior simply because you seem indispensable to the scene?
So you see, we have to argue now because I don't think Thorin is a jackass. I mean, I used him as an example, but I think he can spit out facts. Like he knows his memory and his understanding. I think that he has a very abrasive personality in that he speaks his mind and he says it like it is. And sometimes that's a little bit painful for people, but I also think that if you watch him, he's extremely respectful at the same time. So if you watch his communications, yeah, sometimes he'll be pretty straightforward and harsh, but he's also very quick to pull it back, which is why so many people in the industry respect him. And I think why he's got as far as he has is because one, he's knowledgeable, he's put in the work, and yes, he's a bit abrasive, but he'll admit when he's wrong. And he also, 9 times out of 10, when he is abrasive, he has just reason for it. I don't think he's a complete jackass per se. And I don't think if I think about it, I was actually, when you were halfway through your question, I was going to say, I'm going to throw this back at you and say, like, who is sort of your esports idol? Have you ever seen them be a jackass? Because I think if you look at all the big guys and girls that we look up to, they're extremely humble and they're really like just well behaved and nice people. And I think that comes with just being, to get to that level, you have to grind so hard and work so hard at your craft that you learn to respect anyone who's doing the same. So to answer your question, no, I don't think anyone should get to the size where they get to be a jackass, actually.
Plus to that.
Yeah, that's what I actually wanted to say.
I think within what you were saying, this is like the interesting thing about different esports, right? Because with regards to Thorin, one of the reasons why, because of what you were saying now about how he always can back it up, one of the reasons why I could easily say that I find him to be a jackass is I don't always know enough about the game to adequately assess whether or not he's genuinely telling the exact truth about the game or being a jackass, right? And the line between the two of them might not necessarily be that large. You know, it's a very fine line, and especially if you don't know that much about the game, he might say something which, on the face of it, seems like he's being mean, he's being messed up. But then when you assess what he's actually saying, you're like, oh, of course he's correct in his assessments about the game. So I think that's one of the things as well, is that like, if you eventually you get to a point where the more, what's the word I'm looking for? The more on point your criticism is, the more it hurts. But at the same time, the more people that understand the criticism take less offense to it, whereas people that lack the knowledge base might get more touched, right? The best example for me is there's a guy called Melini in Dota. He's basically my top guy in terms of casting. And he once said about SA players, because I think Red Eye, which tournament was it? But Red Eye was asking him, like, yo, what do you guys think about the SA scene? It might have been a TI even, about, you know, upcoming region here in Africa, people are trying these things out. What should people do in order to genuinely become competitive with the rest of the world? And his instant answer was just move. Like, leave that.
I remember I saw this. I saw this chaos go down.
Yeah.
Man, South Africans are a bunch of crybabies, man.
I remember how triggered everybody was, right? But then when you really trying to think about what he's saying, you're like, well, yeah, that actually seems like one of the obvious things that should happen. If you as an individual player, not concerned about the overall scene as a whole, want to make it and get good, then you should obviously move. And you know, that's based on what you're saying now. Like, it seems like something messed up on the face of it, but there's definitely adequate justification for it. And because you have that respect for this person, and their craft and the dedication they put in, you're willing to give them that additional second to consider whether or not they actually know what they're talking about, versus if you're just some random pleb, you're just gonna be like, screw you, dude, from the get-go.
I also think, I mean, this is sorry, do you want to talk?
Yeah, let me go. I think you guys are both like, I think you guys both got like definition of jackass wrong, because I think, okay, I don't know the Thorin guy because I'm a Dota exclusive guy, you know. And I'll just use James Too Good Harding as an example. The guy who got sacked from the Shanghai Major. For those of you who don't know, rip in peace, my favorite.
Garbage major.
Well.
like on the surface, like you can't like, look at these people and say, "Oh, jackass or not jackass." It's like a face value. It's their persona. It's what they're getting paid to do. You know, you're getting hired to be an asshole on camera. It doesn't really. I think jackass is like if you like a piece of trash behind the scenes. You know, like Kevin Spacey recently. That's what I feel like should never ever be allowed. Obviously, that should go without saying. That stuff should never be allowed. But like nobody's too big to say, you know what, Kevin Spacey, you're a piece of shit, and you can't do that on set. You know. I
actually think you're 100% right. I feel like, I mean, Thorin has what I was going to say is, I think, like, the likes of Thorin, the truth is, and this goes outside of esports, no one always, sometimes the truth hurts. So when you say something like, well, how do you build the South African scene? Well, move. Well, actually, right now, that's probably what you have to do. Why did we get upset? Because it hurts. Because we want him to come back to us and say, well, you know, you guys, yay, you can do it.
Yeah, they want him to do what Red Eye does. Oh, South Africa, yada yada.
I mean, so the truth hurts. Thorin is very straightforward and abrasive. He also has a bit of a wicked sense of humor. I mean, I know one of my funniest things was he was on a panel with Machine, who's my CS:GO idol. And Machine at that stage was employed by ESL, and back in those days, if you were employed by ESL, you got paid far less than the analysts and the freelancers, if you like. And some communications happened with Machine, and he couldn't hear something, and Thorin just turned to him and he's like, they were busy doing map selection. He said, "Oh, don't worry, Machine, we're on cash now, so you probably have nothing to say because you don't know what that is. You know you work for the ESL." Very funny though, and everyone laughed because everyone got the joke. But I mean, someone watching who didn't have context would have been like, "What a dick." But he was actually just being straightforward, and it was actually quite funny. But I think that you're 100% right. I don't think that someone speaking their mind, being controversial, being honest, and being themselves is a jackass. I think being a jackass is that person behind the scenes who constantly tells everyone that they're the best at what they do, constantly criticizes everyone else, constantly throws their weight around, constantly is negative about people, is potentially demanding certain things. I mean, that to me would be a jackass. And that's not just in esports, that's anywhere. It's the person who doesn't look at the picture and go, we are a broadcast team, and if we all work together, we'll create an incredible product that people will enjoy. It's that person who goes, I am a superstar, everyone should be paying attention to me. That to me is the jackass in the group, even if they're the nicest person in real life or on a stage or wherever else.
So basically,
fucking
Kaameel, when you met
Scarpy,
him,
man.
Yeah,
Oh.
Kaameel. Man. Kameel's always. I think that's also the difference. I think you either know that I mean, you can be confident. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think if you know that your actual job is to produce a good show and you're part of a team, you can still be confident. Yeah. It's when you're willing to sacrifice the team or throw people in the team under the bus for your own glory. Then I think you deserve the title of jackass.
I'm gonna quote my man Barry Lazada here. What did he say? I'm trying to remember now. He's like, there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance, and something I've been my whole life is confident. Oh, I think I quoted him like word for word.
That's pretty arrogant though.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. I'm getting in so much trouble.
I feel like Kameel's been carrying around a quote book.
Yeah, it's like this is the most interesting podcast I've done, because I thought you guys we were gonna go hardcore esports, but we've been like super philosophical tonight.
I feel like we can't avoid it, right? Like, this is actually something, didn't we talk about this last week, Kaameel, about how within Dota at the very least, the philosophy of the game, of like what the game's actually like.
I think you overanalyze that shit, man. It's just that we've had this is the 5th one now, right? I don't know, yeah. I'm bad at maths. Good, like I'm like Big Shaq. But like we've spoke about esports for like 4 hours straight if you're looking at podcast timer. So it's good to like, not talk about esports for every now and again, or this one at least.
Besides, I feel like very often within esports, we kind of shoehorn like the people within the industry into being a certain way. We kind of ignore the fact that people are complex, right? We have different ways of viewing the world, different ways of seeing the world. Obviously, the way that everything that's happened to you and everything that you think resulted in you having the drive to do what we're doing now. So it's kind of not important, but it's interesting to know what else underpins who you are, rather than just your desire to get involved in gaming. I mean, lots of people like gaming, so the question has to be what makes some subset of the people who both like gaming and would like to produce content, but actually do it? What differentiates those two groups from the people that just like it, want to do it, but stay at home? And I think that has a lot more to do with who you are as a person, rather than just, the passion for the game. So knowing how people think, I think, is important for that.
Plus, this has been really interesting. Like, I think it's been quite a cool conversation. There's some tidbits here. The quote book that Kameel's got going on, I might go and steal that later.
You wish you gotta pay top dollar for that shit. Yeah, but you guys are getting all emo like this podcast is done. We still got some time left, right? Okay, this is a question. I don't know if you like it or even want to answer it at all. But like you're a successful female in like a quote unquote male dominated industry, right? What is some of the what is some of the shit that you have to put up with that we wouldn't know as males?
When I first started out, I got told that I was only getting my jobs because I was sleeping with people. And if I'd slept with as many people as some of those that had been said, I wouldn't have had time to do any work, which was that. I mean, that for me, also because my brother is in the scene, and now my significant other. So that was really tough for me because one, it was completely untrue and they knew, but two, it's really crap to constantly hear that, because it's frustrating because you're like, flip, I worked hard to get you. I'm definitely not doing that, and like it's upsetting me that people are saying that, and then you second guess yourself because you're like, oh well, do I behave that way? Is that how it comes across? Straight away the problems with you. I've dealt with that a lot. That still carries on, but then my recent one has been, oh well, you only get them because you're a girl. Which, believe it or not, I used to feed, and I used to say that a lot. I remember I've lost count of how many conversations I'd have with someone and say, yeah, but I only got this job because I'm a girl. And I think that's been something I've struggled with. So it's hard because you feel like your successes are downplayed. And because they would never, like, no one says that about the guys in the scene. No one goes, oh, Kameel's only getting these gigs because he's sleeping with so-and-so.
I mean, no one has to say it if we all know it's true.
I mean, true.
Yeah.
I'm a pretty good-looking guy. I don't blame them. I'm just
Also,
kidding.
I feel like the guys who are saying this about you, this is low-key a compliment because they're like, damn, your multitasking is so on point that you can have sex while putting out content. What a player.
You know what I mean? And it's not just me. I mean, I'm pretty sure race will come into it soon as well. Like, I'm pretty sure that those things are going to start happening as well. But I just think that it's like, it's bullshit to downplay someone's success like that. But that went on for a long time. I've learned to deal with that. I also struggle a little bit when I'm controversial or I ask a difficult question. Oh, she's such a bitch. Like, I'm like, nah, man. Like, I'm doing what all the others do, and I'm asking you the tough questions because that's my job. And that doesn't make me a bitch. I'm doing my job.
Not allowed to be mean. Not allowed to be tough as a girl. You have to.
Yeah, like, don't get salty about it. Like, which, funny enough, has changed because I think I've got to know all the players now and they know me, and I like to think that they know that my job is to make them look good at the end of the day. And those controversial questions are normally leading up to a story because I think they've seen that I'm sticking around and that I try and create really cool narratives that they can follow. And I think that they see that now, which has helped me a lot. Maybe in the beginning, not so much. But yeah, I mean, you do get a lot of it because you're a chick, but it is what it is. Some of it hurts, but I've also just always had the opinion that I need to put my head down and work harder, because eventually, like, those people won't have anything left to say, type of thing.
On the point about getting more shit about this because you're a girl, I've seen you try and do like much more than most in order to try and get other women involved in the gaming scene, or just like to feel comfortable, right? So, what do you think that we should be doing, just in general? Because we can't ignore the fact that, Kaameel, do you remember that drama that happened on Facebook a while ago when Brutal Plays was talking trash?
Yeah, there was another racism post out recently as well, and disappoints me every time.
Really?
Carry on, Mr. Snare.
But anyway, with all these, like, whenever racism comes up, and the rampant sexism and misogyny in the games, it always strikes me that, like, it's not enough to just say, yo, this is bad, this is wrong. At some point, you actually have to do active things in order to try and either remedy the situation or create an atmosphere where that behavior is not really acceptable. So what do you think that, like, after the Valkyrie challenge, which was a pretty great thing, I think, by the way, what do you think that, like, the rest of the industry needs to be doing, and the rest of the people, even people that aren't necessarily involved in your game of choice, but just as a community, in order to actually support women in gaming and not just tweet about it every now and then and talk trash during the games?
For me, the biggest thing that needs to happen, I've chatted to a couple of the girls who play CS, and they've started playing with a lot of the sort of the pro guys, and they've said that this has been the big change is our top tier players need to speak up, and that is the castaways, the deviants, and I know like deviants is in CS:GO or has always spoken up, but we need those big names, those top players to win that.
Your channel timed out.
I think Kameel's just lost his internet connection. But to finish answering your question, I think that those players need to go on those Facebook posts, the guys that everyone looks up to and respects, and they need to call them out and say this is unacceptable. They don't. They keep quiet. I honestly think you would see one of those big guys, and I have seen it happen with Deviant before with CS:GO, where when he says something, everyone suddenly goes, "Oh, okay," because they respect them, and it's a terrible thing. But until we have to lead from example, and until our top guys come out and say, you know what, actually, dude, that's not cool, because no one wants to get called out by Castaway, no one wants to get called out by goals. Until those guys do it, I think that would be the change, is watching those big guys say it, calling those guys out, and sort of us, I suppose, self-regulating.
What do you think is the reluctance on the side of the big people? Like, because from the perspective I see it, like, there doesn't seem to be any possible downside for maintaining silence, for not doing anything,
User entered
right?
your channel.
So the question becomes like, why the delay? Why not get involved? You know, it feels like it's costs you nothing, and can only be a practical benefit and a individual moral benefit to yourself to actually try and, you know, get involved, tune people, make it clear that that's not acceptable. Because this community is not fun whenever that shit comes up, right? Like, because very clearly the battle lines kind of get drawn out, and people are like, oh, if you're on that side of the fence, then you're part of the... What's my new favorite one? It's not SJW Cuck. It's SJW Game Ruiner. Yeah, that's my new favorite one. And people tune you this shit whenever you try and speak out about these issues. No, and White Knighting. Yeah, I hear that a lot.
White knighting.
So why don't obviously people have to speak for themselves, but as a general trend, what do you think is causing people to just accept silence, especially from the top guys, and do nothing?
I think sometimes you just, you go on the internet and you're like, oh, I don't really want to deal with that today. Like sometimes I see stuff and I'm like, that's wrong. And then I'm just like, oh well. Like last week's esports drama, like that happened, and there was a few times where I was like, that's not cool. I didn't say anything because I was just like, actually not today. I got work to do. I wanted to play Assassin's Creed. I'm gonna go do that. Like I'm not gonna deal with it. I think it's more just a thing of like, not my circus, not my monkeys. Like I don't really want to get involved. I don't really care. I just want to play games. But I do think that when you are at the top level of the sport, you have an obligation to the community to be a leader. I think Adestam does this extremely well. Like I honestly, like he's like one of my favorite local players. I think that he's such an incredible leader, and I think he's so well respected because he's also just like, he's really good at speaking to the casual Dota player and including them, but also I'm yet to see him. I mean, I haven't seen him call someone out for anything, but I've also never seen anyone speak badly around him, if that makes sense. So I kind of feel like it's your obligation when you are at the top level to it unfortunately is an obligation. But I also understand why they don't want to do it, because they just want to play games, man. They don't want to deal with all that drama.
I mean, that's somewhat fair, but it's also unfair, right? Because it's one of those things where if you find yourself in a position where let's say you just want to play games, you don't want to be engaged in all this bullshit or the political drama of things, but that's kind of like a privileged position because there are people that don't get to simply play games. So if you're a girl trying to play Dota with your mic on, you don't get to ignore the misogyny that takes place in the game, right? Like, you have to confront it head on now. It's not really lost on you. If you're some black dude, like, very vocal about this, don't necessarily get to ignore the fact that there's racism in the game, you know? It comes up at every turn. Like, your casual enjoyment of the game is part and parcel of dealing with these issues. And on the one hand, yeah, sure, it's definitely, you shouldn't necessarily feel like getting involved in a game is always going to be a negotiation of politics at every particular step, but it's kind of unfair that the people that we need to help are those that don't get a say in whether or not this is going to impact their game enjoyment. This is it, right? Like, the choice is either you're going to play the game and at certain turns accept that there's going to be some animus towards you simply for being a human being, or you try to do something about it, or you leave the game, right? Either way, you don't get to just enjoy the game for what it is without having to interact with these people that are fucking it up for you.
Exactly, and I also think like going back to the start of that, from the professional guys who go, well, I don't get involved because I just want to play. Well, no, if you want salaries and you want sponsorships, like guess what? There's a whole host of things that come with that, and I do think that you need to own up, step up, your community leaders. There's a lot of like terrible stuff that goes out on Twitter sometimes from communities, and all they need is one big player to call someone out and say stop that. That is your duty over and above all the other stuff. If you want to be seen as a leader and you want to be seen as one of the best players in the country and you want to be seen as a pro, it's your duty to stop that. And it's also like completely selfish wise. Think about it. If you are that guy that calls out that kid who's being sexist or being racist, you will make like that person who's getting the racism or the sexism. When you call that guy out in public, you've just got yourself a fan for life. Because that girl or that guy or whatever is going to look at you and go, thank you, like for taking that small little moment of time out of your day to stand up for someone you don't know. Like, you're amazing. I'm going to watch every single one of your games going forward, which is why I think Adestam has the following he has, because he's always been that guy.
Right.
And I think that, unfortunately, is what comes with what you want to do. If you want to be a pro player and you want to be one of these top guys, you have an obligation now to your fans, and that obligation is more important than anything else.
So who would you say are the, not necessarily up and coming, but yeah, let's say that. Who would you say is, like, we mentioned Adestam as being a prominent person right now, but who would you put as like your top 5, including potential future leaders of the gamers, talent, whoever the case may be, involved in our luxurious scene? People that you think actually have the potential to be those people that can propel the industry forward in that way.
Kaameel and Snare. Do I win all the brownie points?
No.
Yeah, definitely. I just love hearing my own name.
No.
I think, do you know who I actually, I'm in so much trouble. I know you guys don't follow CSGO. Do you know who I think has the potential to really not only be a superstar in general, but I'm gonna get so much. There's gonna be so much salt now when I say this. I think that the kid has the right attitude. Is Massacre, the cheekiest child in the world? He's only like 16, and he's just. I know he irritates all the players. And at the moment, he's still 16, and he behaves like an idiot. But I think his parents are amazing. I've met them numerous times, and I think that he has the cockiness, but at the same time, the right upbringing, that in a couple of years' time, I think that he has the potential to be one of those leaders, and for people to really look up to him and go, flip, that's impressive.
Yeah.
I also think JT from Bravado, I'm talking CSGO because these are the guys that I know.
I mean, Kaameel doesn't watch CSGO, but I do.
CSGO.
I know
JT from BVD is, I knew him when he was, I met him, I talk like I'm so old, but I met him, a year and a half ago. And he was such a kid, and like, just such a kid, and he's completely like just grown up, and I feel like he's really confident, and I've seen him online. He doesn't have an issue calling people out when he feels that what they're saying is wrong, and I find him, I think he has the potential. And then also, I can't believe I'm going to say this, I don't know the Dota community well enough, so I might be completely off the mark here, but I do think Bob Yules is someone that. Bob is, like, that guy says, he speaks a lot of sense sometimes, and I feel like if he stepped up to the plate, we would see a shift as well. But I might be wrong. I mean, everyone might hate him. I don't know.
Fucking Bob, man. No, but he's good with certain things. Obviously, you can't be a pop champ with everything, but in some senses, I think he's a real upstanding member to the community, you know? In some senses. In other ways, oh, Bob, but you're on the right track there, Teko.
Bob is great.
What about my boy, Cannibalistic? What do you think about him?
I love Connie, man. Oh, Connie's my friend. Listen, like, we need to remember that we ultimately put on a show. That's what we do when we do an esports broadcast. And Connie is my favorite because he understands that so well, and he knows exactly how to put on a show.
Yeah, he's an entertaining fella. Now, try to differ from this, praise fest we're on here. But Snare, your initial point is it's really, I find it really depressing that That's like the sort of like if you're a minority, it's just like it's a pain to play a game. It's just a pain to play a game. Is it even worth it to play? And every time you play, you get some guy calling you a curry mancho. Hey, check, add me on WhatsApp or this kind of vibe, you know. And you know what gets me the most every time this shit comes up is that okay, so there'll be a post on Facebook about racism. Like obviously we know in South Africa there'll be racism or there'll be sexism or there'll be this, but like that happens and I'm okay with that. But then when the post comes up and then people low-key fucking defend this shit.
Yeah.
It puts me on like I'm like, what do you do now? When people actually agree with this racism, it's like, I don't know what to say anymore.
Well, low-key, yeah, I don't think it's low-key. Like, very often it's like...
Yeah, you're right.
Me as well is when one of the minorities call this out and we say, this is not cool, I'm tired of getting the response, oh, but that's how gaming is.
Yeah.
No, sorry. Like,
oh my
no,
God.
That's not how gaming is. That's bullshit. That's just your excuse to behave like an asshole.
Yeah.
You don't get to be like that. Like, that is not how gaming is. You don't get to ruin the thing that I love and try and justify it like that. And I do think that's that drives me insane when they say, oh, but this is how gaming. No, it's not.
It's the internet though. It's like,
when Blurs did that whole thing with when that whole thing came out with Blurs and which was that South African YouTuber there were those private messages and he had clearly threatened rape, which by the way is actually a criminal offense.
Yes, it is.
I don't care what happened with the courts and whatever, and I know lawyers got involved and now he did his thing, but when people turn around and said you can't get upset because this is how gaming is, and then when he did a video and he said I didn't see anything wrong with it because ladies, if you're sensitive, like, word of warning from me, be careful because this is how gaming is. No.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
Why do you don't get to behave like that and justify it. Like, you behave like an asshole, just apologize. So, gets me. Now I'm super pissed off and annoyed. I'm going to go.
User entered your channel.
When people see your name, obviously, Tickle. I had an argument with someone about you once, actually. And somebody was saying that you're going out of your way to, like, enable yourself and carve out your own space as being the individual gamer girl in all of SA and not leaving anybody else any opportunity to grow or expand. And their rationale for this was the fact that you chose the name Tech Girl, right? Sort of like designating yourself as the Tech Girl, which makes no sense. But, you know, in response to that, I was actually wondering, what was the motivation behind the name itself?
The only motivation behind that name was that it was the only domain that was available for me to buy. And that's no joke. And anyone who says, like, you see now, because now I'm raging, it was the only domain there was about 7 other options. They were all taken. Tickle was the only one that was free. Wasn't even my pick. It was a friend of mine who's a mommy blogger who was like, I've just looked and Tickle is free. Do you want to take that one? It's the only reason Tickle exists. So it's funny that whoever said that. But I also like, again, I mean, we've spoken about this the whole night. Like, that makes me laugh. But I also think anyone who knows me, anyone who's worked with me knows that I've given huge opportunities to other females in the space, and I'm one of the few that push for other females to have a voice and have a space and get paid for what they do. And the females in the scene know that. That's why most of us are mates. So
who would you put on? Give us your superstars. Who should we be following? Who should we be listening to? Who are the females in the industry? This beyond Tech Girl that we all need to be paying attention to?
So I think Sharon Shaz Wason is a must. So she is a CSGO player, one of the only South African esports players that have she won Copenhagen Games, part of a team secret at the time, an all-female team. She's just come back. Ooh. She's actually she's quite sick and she needs a liver transplant, so she can't travel as much, and it's also impacted her playing. But she started streaming. So she streams once a week. 1, she's an incredible player. 2, she's probably one of the funniest people you'll ever watch. I think she's the most underrated streamer in this country because she's so funny when she plays. She's just like herself. She's super chilled, but she talks and she's funny. I think that she is definitely one to watch. We're just talking about females right now, am I right?
Yeah, just the women.
Definitely Shaz. Also, someone else that I think everyone should watch. She doesn't create content, but I just feel like she plays a far bigger role in South African Dota than people realize, is Abigail Kwan. I mean, I know she's playing now. I think she's busy setting up an all-female team. I think that people should pay attention to her. I just like her. I like her vibe. I think that she like I said, I think she does far more behind the scenes than people realize. Someone else that I think everyone should definitely watch, just because I think she's extremely funny, she's beautiful, she's an incredible player, and I think she's going to start moving into content, is Rachel from Energy Esports. Rachel sometimes. I never know what she's going to change her nickname
Rachel.
to. Is it Rachel? Nah, it was Rachel. It's
Yeah,
something else.
Rachel.
Yeah, Rachel. I think
Yeah,
she's...
man, I was putting my money on Bish there.
Yeah, no, I think she is just incredible. And then if from a more casual gaming, I mean, they're both my mates, and I just they're my friends. They also they write on Tickle because they both decided to do the content creation thing full time. So they help me with blog posts, but also then obviously I can pay them. I think that Constantine 104 from a gaming YouTuber point of view, I think that she's got really cool gameplay, well, she plays through different games, but they're like really weird indie stuff that I think people could find quite interesting. And then of course Shani ZA, everyone's favorite friend. She's a gamer and she's into esports, but she's just like cool and she's got all the super energy. And I think that Shani is like the epitome of who's watching South African esports. She loves it, she understands it, she's not necessarily playing it every night. And I think that she's someone to watch because her content's cool as well. I mean, and of course, my hero, she was the first person to ever give me a gig in gaming, and I know that she's now hosting Glitched, which includes some esports stuff, is of course Pippa Shabalala, who I don't actually need to say anything about because I think everyone at some point or another has heard about her or seen her. I mean, they're
More
all
popular
there.
than all of us.
Yeah, I mean,
Combined,
they're all
bruh.
there doing that vibe. So, I mean, those are the ladies that I'd watch. I've given you 3 that I think you should watch, and I've given you 3 that are pretty established now, but that's my group. I actually wish Abigail would do more content. Someone go and tell her.